Good evening and welcome to the final round of the ARL F1 2021 Esports Series. We are into round 12, racing at Jeddah, the Corniche circuit. It is quite an interesting circuit thrown together by all accounts to end or towards the end of the previous F1 season. Incredible circuit, lots of high-speed corners, lots of flowing corners. The walls are so close here, and a lot of the corners, especially in the first sector, are completely blind. There are 27 turns and three DRS zones. So this should be a great track to watch. Not so much as in the way of elevation, but that doesn't mean that the track doesn't have character. With all those walls so close and those blind corners, anything can happen, and anything does happen. So at the end of the last race in Imola, at the end of the last quali in Imola, we had Ladmine leading, Humid in second, and Michael in third. Humid having fallen from his place as Ladmine's most aggressive title contender, and Sebi filling that role, only coming in fourth on quali, but that did not remain that way during the race. In the race, Ladmine did take the win, 8.3 seconds ahead. Sebi coming in second, making up those positions, and putting himself still within range of the championship. Unlike the information I was given at the end of the last session, Sebi is within 24 points of Ladmine out in front, which means if he manages to win this race and Ladmine finishes 10th or below without the fastest lap, Sebi will win the championship. So it's still all to play for the title protagonists. As far as the teams are concerned, Mercedes are running in first place with 229 points, McLaren in second with 192, and Haas in third with 180. Haas with a chance to leapfrog McLaren, as Humid is the only one here today for the McLarens. Sebi and G-Funk in the Haases are here, and obviously Sebi with that eye on the win. So let's see what they can do. As far as the driver's standings are concerned, here's how they are. Ladmine out in first place, 203 points. Sebi in second with 179, and Humid having secured his place in third, 147 points. That 147 is without change for the last 3 rounds. Humid last scored points in Russia before crashing out in Brazil, Portugal, and Imola. KQ Microstatic in 4th place, Moss in 5th, and that Sketchy Dude in 6th. All close enough to challenge each other. Michael Furry also close enough to just about challenge Moss. So still a lot to play for in the lower numbers. Michael Furry 7th, Lion Lamb 8th, Jarvis in 9th. Jarvis not joining us today so far as we can tell. And we already have our first retirement of the qualification session, which is going on in the background. G-Funk retiring. This circuit is unforgiving. So getting here, we can see how close it's been all the way through the season, with Ladmine taking an early lead, Humid and Sebi fighting it out in the background, but then as of Hungary things got a lot closer. Sebi dropped down, Humid was challenging Ladmine at pretty much every race and even leapfrogged him at Russia, where he ended up with 139 points to Ladmine's 135. Sebi has had a very consistent time meanwhile and has managed to then leapfrog Humid after Brazil, heading into at Portugal had cemented that next jump. Ladmine's consistent performances led to him being at the top of the championship, and that is how we find ourselves with the championship still to play for. So let's head across to our racers. 11 on the circuit, 10 still available. Michael just setting the fastest lap of the quali session, and let's get to it. So as you can see, only Michael and IMTJ having times on the board so far. Gur coming around, what is that? That is the final corner, heading down towards the start-finish line. And just getting the sound on. Gur crosses the line, 4th place, slowest time so far, 1:31.798. So, as you can see, the track is so narrow, especially in this first section. We're going to ride on board with Gur just so you can see how blind these corners are as he goes through Sector 1. All the way through Sector 1, it's this twisty, turny, uncomfortable track, and every one of these corners you can see, you can't see, that's exactly the point. Gur having to take to the runoff to let Moss through, and then now into a slightly faster section. Gur not likely to be on, or definitely not on a lap, having gotten out of it, but it's a good way to see the track running at a slightly slower pace than he would otherwise. You can see the banking there just to promote racing through that corner, allow people to hang through that corner side by side. Another blind little chicane. Lots of little kinks here. Most of them can be taken at quite high speed, which leads to these walls feeling a lot closer than they currently look. KQ Microstatic now at the top of the table with a 1:28.554, stamping his authority on the timing, almost, or just under 5/10 quicker than Michael. So this is going into Sector 3. I think this is just into Sector 3, and this is one of the fastest sections of the track. This weird little hairpin shape that saw Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen come together as Verstappen tried to let Lewis past before the DRS detection zone, and accusations of brake checks, proof of brake checks, but that was where that happened, in that little hairpin section. So Gur looks like he is heading off on another lap, so let's see what it looks like at speed as he heads into the first and second corner. This chicane, you can take a lot of the track on that outside corner, not taking much here, trying to be safe through that section. Possibly may have lost a little bit on the previous run and being a little bit cautious going through this section. This is the first DRS detection zone, that white line that he's just crossed over. Humid now going to the top of the timing table of a 1:28.296 as Gur goes through the first technically DRS detection or DRS zone round that banked corner, taking a very wide line there, possibly not the ideal line through there, into the next little harsh chicane with the walls, as you can see, right on the apexes of the curves. Which leads to this track feeling as claustrophobic as it possibly can. Through the speed trap now, and unfortunately we can't get the speed trap times, but we do know that he is 5/10 up on his previous time as he goes into the second DRS zone, heading down towards the final corner. Around the final corner, that looked like contact with the wall, something that Max Verstappen found out is not good for your car during quali at this year's Jeddah Grand Prix, and Gur crosses the line 4/10 faster than his previous time, but only good enough for 8th. Landmine has not come out of the pits yet, or has not set a lap yet at least. Humid currently fastest with a 1:28.296, Sebi in second, 1:28.312. He will want to set another time to get to the front of the pack, because that is definitely where you want to be when you need to get through this track first. With all the walls as close as they are, passing does become dangerous every single time that you try it. KQ Microstatic currently on his outlap, so we will follow KQ Microstatic around the second half of this lap, just to see where he can put himself. Best sector times so far, Sebi with the best first sector, 30.755 compared to the second best of 30.786. Who has the second best? KQ Microstatic has the best second sector with a 27.655. Only about a tenth faster than the second best second sector, which was Michael with a 27.751, and best sector 3 is 29.694, and that was Humid. So that being Humid's lap was actually very consistent all through the sectors, and that is what gave him that fastest lap time. KQ Microstatic comes around the last corner, gets a little bit of a wiggle of oversteer, but gets on the road for his next flying lap. Let's follow him on board as he runs at speed into turns 1 and 2. The chicane, as you can see, is very tight. You can take a lot of the track on the outside of the track on the runoff there. KQ deciding not to do that, but taking a lot of curb on the inside of that next chicane. You can see how blind this is, how fast it is as well. It is incredible to watch these guys go through these corners at such high speed. Having to get off the throttle more, that is an invalidation. Just a little bit too much curb coming out of there. The curbs here, as you can see, they have the 2 white lines, one on each side, which means that the curbs can be used. Interestingly, here the curbs are technically on the inside of the track limits, which leads to the white lines being the track limits in almost every situation. Even in real F1, which is a little bit of a rarity. But even now, KQ has not gotten off the throttle. It looks like he's trying to check what sort of pace he can do, pushing himself through these sections, taking a lot of curb at every opportunity, coming into the final sector, pushing it down this, taking a decent line. You can see where the rubber is being laid down by the slightly lighter part of the track. Counterintuitive though it is, that is where the rubber is getting down, and it makes the track a little bit more grippy. KQ pushing into the pits now, so let's join Michael as he preps for his next flying lap. Humid also prepping, but we will follow Michael through here and then join Humid as he comes towards the end of his lap. Michael taking a fair amount of curb on the outside there, not as much as he could have, but possibly trying to stay off the curb a little bit just to get some better acceleration. So off he goes now into the first little chicane. Lots of curb on the inside, lots of curb on both insides. Doesn't take that runoff on the outside, but gets a good line through there nevertheless. Into the second little set of S turns. Looks like the rear end is a little loose going through there, but keeps it under control. Does not get, as I say that, manages to get invalidated with a massive snap of understeer. So that is unfortunate for Michael, but we will go and now join Humid on his next flying lap. Takes a lot of curb there, heading into the S section. Possibly picking up a little bit of understeer there. I know Humid does tend to prefer a little bit of understeer, a little bit of a loose rear end, and you could see it happening there as he went wide at that one curve, not getting an invalidation, which means it actually hurt his time. So a little bit of time left on the table there, running behind the Aston Martin, possibly a little bit close to Venom ahead. Sounded like he may have had contact with the wall there as well. This does look like a pretty messy lap, but does not look to be slow. 2/10 up on his previous time going, and that is pushing a little bit too hard. You can see the oversteer there, possibly overheating his tires a little bit, which has led to his lap being invalidated. Venom in the Aston Martin, that was ahead of Humid, coming around the final corner, still with a valid lap. Looked like he struggled a little bit to get the car turned and going into the pits rather than completing the lap. That looked very wide going on to the pit entry. So Moss is the only person out on a lap at the moment, going into the going through the second sector. Looks like the AlphaTauri getting nicely out of the way there, very much off the racing line. It's really difficult to get off the racing line at this track, so that AlphaTauri doing well to find a place that it was safe to do so. Moss heading to the end of the second sector, 7.5 tenths up on his previous time. So this is a good lap from Moss, who's currently sitting in 6th position with a 1:30.176. So that time will put him up above Venom at the very least, if he manages to keep that 7/10 gain. Let's see as he comes around the last corner, keeping the Red Bull out of the wall, heading down the pit straight and across the finish line, taking as much of the pit entry as possible in a 129.1. So Moss going into 5th place, leapfrogging Venom in the Aston Martin. Gur and Ladmine on outlaps. We're going to follow Ladmine through as the only person who hasn't set a lap time yet. Apologies for the menu screen, I'm just getting up the chat which has dropped to the background. And here we go, as Ladmine starts the lap, heading down towards turns 1 and 2, the chicane there will be getting, oh, this looks very slow, so Ladmine deciding this is not the lap for him, possibly deciding that those medium tires are not up to temperature. Alicia has unfortunately retired from the session, so it doesn't look like her car is on the track. Let's see what's happening from Sebi's point of view. I don't think that's Alicia ahead. Hey, Big Fudge. Well, thanks for joining us. How are you doing? I don't think that's Alicia's car ahead, so Alicia obviously having some sort of trouble or otherwise retiring in the pits potentially. So let's see how this goes. TJ has not put in a great lap so far. I know he does have a fair bit more pace than what he's showing here. So hopefully he does go out on another lap at some point towards the end of the session where the track will, as I say that, TJ retires also in the pits. Yeah, Humid is ridiculously quick. He has obviously been trying to break his pointless spell. Last 3 races, Humid has not actually managed to score a point. Brazil, Portugal and Imola, he has missed out. So Humid trying to set things right with a quick lap to lead quali at the moment, but Ladmine gearing up. Ladmine currently leading the championship without a lap on the board, so let's follow him around this lap. Going, oh, and once again Ladmine deciding not to go on this lap, and I don't think there is enough time. There is not enough time for Ladmine to actually get a lap in. So Ladmine opting to start at the back of the grid with only G-Funk behind him. So as things stand, we have Humid coming through the final corner, looking to possibly set another lap time, currently leading the qualification session with a 128.296. Sebi in second with a 128.312. Sebi does look like he's on a lap as well. Moss, the first person to finish the quali session. Humid taking that wide line through the second corner that I mentioned a little bit earlier. So Sebi still for everything to race for, going into the third sector now. We will see shortly whether he has done enough to beat Humid. Humid out on another lap on soft tires, definitely trying to put himself out of reach of Sebi. Gets a fastest first sector, which Sebi previously had. So this looks like a good lap for Humid. Sebi getting a fastest lap, 127.997, 3/10 up from Humid. So Humid has to find 3/10 of a second on this lap as he heads towards the end of Sector 2. This lap all important for the McLaren. Gets 5/10 up through the second sector. So Humid on track, if he can keep it on the track. Manages to keep it there, lost a little bit of time, which is why the game didn't validate the lap immediately. Heading into the final couple of corners, down towards the final corner. This is where things can go so easily wrong, especially on such a fast lap. Let's see if he manages. He manages to keep it out of the wall, but does get a snap of oversteer, which will have lost him a little bit more time. Will he have those 3/10 to get fastest? He does. He goes fastest for 127.723, 5/10 up from Sebi. A blistering lap from Humid, putting himself at the front of the qualification grid. Well done. So Humid deciding that he is going to be the thorn in Sebi's side. Ladmine starting at the back of the grid, giving himself everything to work for. Humid in fastest with a 127.723. Sebi with a 127.997, 2.7 tenths behind. Michael in third place with the 7.75 gap. With a 128.498. KQ Microstatic just behind him. Moss in fifth. Venom in 6th, IMTJ in 7th, Gur in 8th, Alicia in 9th, Ladmine in 10th place, and G-Funk not completing a lap and finishing in 11th position. So, Ladmine, everything to play for. If he finishes where he is and gets fastest lap, he will win the championship. If he does not get that fastest lap, then Sebi wins, Sebi will win the championship. So, it's a long shot for Sebi, but we have seen stranger things happen. So we wait for the countdown to lights out and the start of the final race of the Ikoria Gaming League finale. Lights going on, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 lights. And away we go quite nice and quickly, so this should get things going. Looks like Humid did get a decent start, but Sebi on the inside takes the aggressive line, has a little bit of contact with Humid, but Humid manages to keep it on the track. Humid and Sebi still fighting, but now Sebi has gotten ahead and Humid has given up the position. Michael in third, KQ Microstatic in fourth. Moss sitting in fifth place now as they head through the S curves. Which are 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. I'm not even going to try and count the corner numbers there. There are way too many of them, way too quickly. Heading down towards corner 13. This is the banked left-hander to bring them back onto the back section of the track. Sebi in first place, Humid in second, trying to ruin Sebi's championship chances as Ladmine gets up to 9th place at the back and will be fighting to get further up. Humid taking an interesting line through there and hitting the wall quite hard. That is likely to have damaged his wing a little bit, and he is going to struggle to turn left from this point going forward. And there you can see it having a little bit of an issue going left, and Humid is going to be kicking himself for that little bit of contact with the wall as Sebi starts pulling a slight advantage out at the front, 5/10 down the back section, which is not much just yet, but at this early stage of the race that is going to grow. 6/10 now as Humid looked like he locked up a little bit going into the final corner. Behind, Michael is in third, KQ Microstatic right on the tail of that Williams, looking for a way past. A little bit of lag going on there, but seems like it has passed as they head through the first chicane once again. KQ Microstatic 3/10 back from Michael. Moss not far behind, 5/10 back. Venom in 6th, IMTJ in 7th, Gur in 8th, Ladmine sitting in 9th place just behind the AlphaTauri of Gur, Alicia in 10th, and G-Funk in 11th. Ladmine has made up one position from the start, is currently in a position where he would win the championship if he manages to finish there. Looking to pass Gur as they head onto the straight down to the banked left-hander of turn 13, gets past nice and easy, gets past well before the corner, and through he goes. Well done to Ladmine, getting up to 8th position. Up in front, Sebi has pulled a 7/10 gap to Humid, so that is good for Sebi, bad for Ladmine, but Ladmine is making up positions at the back, currently chasing down his teammate in the form of TJ. Gur falling back and Alicia starting to catch him, 5/10 back now as KQ Microstatic is 3/10 behind the Williams. Michael once again heading down towards the final corner. Does not look like he's going to try anything on this lap, but may get close enough that he might have to. 3/10. The gap even now. Sebi and Humid both setting fastest lap times up at the front, definitely trying to push each other. Sebi trying not to make a mistake, Human trying to force the mistake. KQ Microstatic 4/10 behind Michael going through the windy section. He is going to have a ton of dirty air as he tries to survive through these sections, get close enough to Michael to make a move. Michael looks like he is getting a little loose around those corners. The soft tires probably starting to get quite hot. This is a very fast track, and these soft tires do not like being thrown around as much as these guys are having to do so. KQ Microstatic looking at the inside, deciding against it down through turn 13, staying behind Michael, and that is one of the wonderful things about this track and that banked turn 13. It allows them to stay close together even onto the back section, and only through these windy bits do they actually start getting the effects of the dirty air as badly as at some of the other tracks. Meantime, out in front, Humid is catching up to Sebi 4/10 back. KQ Microstatic looking at the inside once again, deciding this is not the right place to pass, and I do quite agree with him. This section here that we're seeing Humid and Sebi go through, that is the place to pass, and it looks like KQ Microstatic has decided the same. Heading down towards the final corner, KQ is now ahead with the assistance of DRS. As ahead, Humid will get DRS going down the pit straight. KQ Microstatic in the background breaking the toe. Humid setting the fastest lap on 1:31.518, looking to the outside, deciding not going to pass Sebi this time. G-Funk has now got him past Alicia at the back, going through turn 13. So well done to G-Funk after crashing out before setting a lap time, now starting to make places up. Humid 3/10 back from Sebi. As long as he can keep it clean, this is good pressure to be putting on Sebi, and he will be hoping for Sebi to make a couple of mistakes, get himself a penalty, and put Humid into the running, but that is not the way to do it. Going wide there and having to give up a chunk of time in order not to get a penalty himself. Moss currently the closest challenger to anyone, right behind Michael. That Williams struggling around this track after being passed by Microstatic. G-Funk the first person to get track limits warning. Michael seems to be struggling a little bit. Moss now catching up to him as well, and probably will be looking to make a pass as they head down towards the second DRS zone. So heading through the twisty sections, you can see how wide these cars are and how narrow this track actually is from this wonderful overhead view. And into the second DRS zone, Moss is now going to push it and try and get on top of Michael's gearbox as they head down towards turn 13 and possibly around. Sounds like he doesn't have quite enough pace to do it. You can see so many skid marks there as people have to brake a little harder than their soft tires are happy to do. Moss keeping with Michael as he takes an interesting, very narrow line through that section, looking at the inside, deciding against it, deciding it is better to try again later, but that has brought Venom right on top of them, and that'll help Michael get a little bit further away. I have seen Michael use other players to his advantage before, and I wonder if that is what he has done. In the meantime, Humid has actually passed Sebi out in front, so let's go back and see what Sebi can do to get that position back. Should be getting DRS now, has got DRS, heading down towards turn 13, not close enough this time to do anything. Moss and Michael have now switched positions into turn 13 as well. So Michael now having to deal with Venom as Sebi falls 6/10 back and gets a 3-second penalty for track limits. Venom now the latest person to get a 3-second penalty as he gets a massive snap of oversteer coming out of that corner, which puts him a little bit further back from Michael, but not far enough for Michael to feel comfortable just yet. Sebi 4/10 back as they go into the DRS zones. Let's head back to Sebi, see what he can do as he comes up to the back of Humid down towards turn 27. Takes a slightly wider line, will get a better apex on the late apex, and should get a little bit more speed coming out of the corner. Will have DRS, will have ERS, will have the slipstream, and you can see how powerful that is as he gets through. Humid immediately cutting back into the slipstream of the Haas and gets through those corners fine. Let's see, goes quite wide there, which you can do there. Michael and Moss side by side. That is brave as they head through the blind corners of the first sector into the S's. Side by side for a moment, Venom once again on top of Michael. So action happening all over the place and no one retiring just yet. 6 laps in out of 25, no retirements. That is pretty incredible. These guys showing why they have made it. Oh, I have jinxed it. The commentator's curse. And there is the safety car as G-Funk unfortunately bins it, coming out of the second and third corners, it looks like. So the safety car now coming out, commentator's curse taking a victim, and everyone can slow down, breathe, and very likely start thinking about coming in for tires. Venom, IMTJ, Ladmine, all on those medium tires, so they are going to have to push quite a bit further into the race to make that strategy work. Sebi, Humid, KQ Microstatic, Moss, Michael, Gur, and Alicia all now have the option to come in and get rid of those soft tires, which have run obviously quali as well as a few laps in the race. And that is great for the soft tire runners, not so good for the medium tire runners. And there we go, you can see Sebi and Humid both deciding to get rid of that soft rubber. Ooh, that looked interesting. That looked very interesting. KQ Microstatic speeding into the pit lane, that's unfortunate for him, a 5-second penalty. Semi and Humid switching positions once again. I don't know what's happening there, whether that is lag or something else that's causing all sorts of weirdness. Michael in the pits as well. Sebi and KQ Microstatic going on to hards. Michael as well. IMTJ and Humid going on to mediums. So hoping to push the mediums all the way to the end of the race. Might be a little bit optimistic, so they might be looking at a 2-stop race, possibly hoping for a late safety car rather than going all the way to the end. IMTJ and IMTJ the only one that didn't pit, so Sebi Ladmine deciding to pit onto the hard tires from the medium tires, so believing that that is definitely the right strategy, possibly also hoping for a late safety car, just that the order will be mixed up. And he'll be able to keep track position, although as we have seen, track position here has not been as powerful as one would have expected, and we saw that in the real F1 race as well. Track position here is very difficult to keep, especially with the banking around certain of these corners, allowing for such close racing. So this should be an interesting race going forward. Currently we have we have everyone having pit other than IMTJ, so possibly regretting his decision a little bit. We will see if there is a safety car later on which he can take advantage of, in which case his strategy may work, especially as he's gotten track position now. As far as penalties are concerned, we've got 3 seconds for IMTJ for track limits, 5 for KQ Microstatic. That will be served if he pits again. That was for speeding in the pit lane. Venom with 3 seconds and Sebi with 3 seconds. Sebi having 3 seconds is terrible news for him, as that means he will need to get 3 seconds ahead of whoever is in second place if he does manage to get back up to first, currently running in 7th. So I'm not sure what happened there, why he got shuffled so far down. Possibly a little bit of lag. Looks like the safety car has a green light on, so we are likely to see the safety car go in this lap already. Let's see what's happening. No notification just yet. So not sure if that green light was a lie. Yes, that green light was cake. So we are going to go around one more lap behind the safety car. Looks like everyone has caught up. Alicia joining the back of the queue now in her Williams. And one more lap around at what must feel like a snail's pace with so many turns. The safety car obviously not having the downforce of the Formula 1 cars, and that means through these corners it cannot go fast enough for them to keep their tires up to temperature. Humid, you can see, weaving around like a madman, struggling with the pace being set by the safety car and struggling to keep himself out of the gearbox of IMTJ ahead. Definitely does not want to push it too hard and end up in a wall somewhere, so it needs to calm down a little bit possibly, but at the same time you have to watch your tire temperature and try and keep it at a consistent level. If it gets too cold, you have to then worry about getting it up to temperature again. If it gets too hot, you need to worry about trying to cool it down again, and it just becomes an absolute mess when we come to the end of this safety car period. So into the slightly faster second sector, we'll probably see the guys speed up a little bit as the safety car can start going a little faster. Once again, those green lights on, but apparently they don't mean what they should mean. So let's wait for the game to notify us that the safety car is coming in, as IMTJ tries to warm his tires and stay out of the safety car's boot as much as possible. A couple of gaps starting up as people struggle with the weird speed changes. Let's see as we come onto the second DRS straight. There it is, safety car in this lap. So everyone will be warming up their tires and trying as hard as possible to get them into the optimal window. Lots of very slow moving weaving going on here, and this is always scary to watch for anyone who's been in this situation. I mean, you can see how close everyone is to each other. Ladmine pulling a little bit further back, deciding that he doesn't want to risk any damage from the guys weaving ahead. You can see the snake that's forming. IMTJ obviously controlling the pace. Ladmine's teammate will probably go coming out of this corner. No, deciding to hold it a little bit further. Humid really wants to get going. You can see how close he's getting. TJ goes in a random spot and catches Humid a little bit by surprise. KQ Microstatic did get a good exit out of the safety car period, so that has bunched up the pack quite a lot. Michael getting probably the best of it, but losing the position almost immediately after having to back out of the corner there to Venom. Venom looking to go side by side. Michael pulling back and deciding to let Venom through. Michael definitely struggling in that Williams, falling back to Venom and now putting himself in the grasp of Sebi behind. In the meantime, Humid has pulled up to 2/10 behind IMTJ. Without the help of DRS, he is going to have to hope for that slipstream and get past the hard way. KQ Microstatic in third place, Moss in fourth, Venom in fifth place, having taken gotten past Michael. Sebi now in seventh place with Ladmine right behind him, or 1.5 seconds behind him. So Ladmine and Sebi fighting on track as they are in the championship as well. Sebi pulling up to the back of Michael, but at the same time Humid and TJ right on top of each other as they head into the next opportunity. Sebi and Michael side by side. Sebi looks like he is in front now on the map. Humid looking at the inside of the long sweeping double left-hander and down towards a turn 27. Turn 27 does have a lot of runoff there, not having to use it, thank goodness, all the way through turn 27, getting right on the tail of IMTJ as IMTJ tries to break the toe. That's one move on the straight little section of the track. Humid looking to the outside, getting squeezed a little bit by IMTJ as they go side by side into turn 1 and 2 and 3. They touch a couple of times, a little bit of argy-bargy going on, but nothing too bad into the S's. That is so close, so much squeezing going on, but nothing out of what is absolutely legal. And that was great racing by both of them, keeping themselves out of each other's flaws. Humid getting right on top of TJ there. It is a miracle that there has not been contact there. KQ Microstatic right on top as well now, thanks to those two fighting each other as they go through the fast sweeping left-hander of turn 13. Still side by side, KQ Microstatic right on top of them, Moss with them as well, and Venom deciding to get involved as well. So these guys right on, I mean, this is crazy racing right here. This is what we want to see. We're going to watch from Venom as the guys in front still right on top of each other, trying to avoid contact and front wing damage. We're going to ride on board with Moss so that we can see the front two. Humid getting all over the track, looking for a way past IMTJ. IMTJ defending like an absolute champion and definitely doing what he needs to for his teammates' championship glory. KQ Microstatic now going to the outside as well, then going to the inside, deciding to pull out. Moss now on the outside of KQ Microstatic as Humid and IMTJ are side by side. Little bit of contact there. IMTJ falling back, Humid getting into first position, KQ keeping third position, Moss staying in fourth position. KQ now looking at the inside of IMTJ, and this is the best seat in the world for this. Little bit of contact, between Moss and KQ Microstatic, but KQ does manage to keep it on track and get past IMTJ as well. IMTJ possibly struggling on those slightly older tires as Moss narrowly avoids going into the back of him. You could hear the lockup there of the tires, but now Moss will be the latest person to have a look at IMTJ. From first at the end of the safety car, now down to third, and with massive pressure from behind from both Moss and Venom. Sebi up to sixth, having passed Michael. Landmine still sitting in eighth, in a safe position for the championship, possibly deciding that he wants the glory of the championship more than he wants the glory of this final race. So Humid, after a lap out from under the safety car, we have Humid out in front, KQ Microstatic in second, IMTJ in third, Moss looking at the back of IMTJ's gearbox and currently in fourth, but not for long it looks like. No, decides to pull out. So Moss still in fourth, Venom in fifth, Sebi in sixth, having to make up all those positions back up to first position. Michael in seventh, Landmine in eighth, Gur and Alicia ninth and 10th. Moss now getting ahead of IMTJ. Venom looking to go around the outside. May have been a little bit of contact there, and IMTJ's race goes from bad to worse as he gets spun round on the final corner. Venom now leapfrogging Moss and up into third position. So Moss keeping position in fourth place, Venom taking that third position away from him. IMTJ gets a penalty, speeding in the pit lane to add insult to injury. That is terrible for him after restarting so well, keeping his position for much longer than anyone could have expected him, and then just being tapped on that final corner and spun around. That is really terrible for IMTJ. So coming up on halfway through this race, 12.5 laps down of 25. Humid currently up into first place. KQ Microstatic running a very strong second, having a very intelligent race so far, taking advantage of the mistakes of those around him and climbing the grid. Venom sitting in third place, 1.6 seconds behind KQ, so not really affecting him at the moment. No DRS. Moss, on the other hand, has DRS behind Venom, and these two will be racing coming onto the pit straight as well. Moss will get DRS here, and there it is, opening. Gets to the pit entry, taking the shortest line to the start finish straight so that there is less opportunity for Moss to get us alongside. Humid getting a 3-second penalty for track limits as Moss tries the cutback on Venom and looks like not quite enough to get past the Aston Martin just yet. Moss running a slightly more aggressive race than he could possibly sounded like quite a bit of wheel spin there. Moss running a very aggressive race compared to what he could be doing. He could be waiting, just hitting those DRS zones and putting pressure on Venom rather than putting his front wing in danger the way he was through those S's. So people need to keep in mind how the fact that they have to finish the race to be able to actually score any points, and if they go too aggressive all the time, they will end up with contact, damaged wings, damaged floors. I can only imagine how badly a damaged floor would affect one at this track. Moss currently still within 5/10ths of a second of Venom up ahead as IMTJ gets a 3-second track limit penalty on top of his speeding penalty, as well as that spin that put him all the way at the back of the pack. IMTJ looking at the inside, going through turn 27, decides better, gets a wider line through there and possibly a better exit. Let's see what he can do. 4.43. This is dropping rapidly. Moss getting a good exit, pushing everything into this pass, and let's see. Brakes a little early, but enough for him to get past Venom. So Venom in the Aston Martin is now behind Moss and will be the one fighting for the position from this point forward. In the meantime, Sebi and Michael are busy fighting in the background as well. 3/10 between the two of them. So a couple of battles up and down the field. Moss and Venom, Sebi and Michael are the two pairs that are fighting. INTJ showing that he has the pace, had the pace to stay out in front, putting in the fastest lap, but unfortunately with the misfortune that befell him, has fallen to the back of the pack. Venom and Moss 5/10 between them. Michael and Sebi 8/10, 9/10. So Sebi deciding that he is tired of Michael being so close and trying to put some time between them. Also with that 3-second penalty, Michael is currently technically ahead of him in the standings. So Venom looking at the back of that Red Bull, getting really to know the gearbox there, as KQ Microstatic out in front has decided to challenge Humid. Goes to the outside of the first corner, is level, but decides not to throw it in too early on the hard tires, so having a little bit less traction than his rival there. Moss and Venom looking side by side as well for a moment, going into that first chicane, not getting any changes just yet, but Moss and KQ Microstatic both actually showing their intention to make a move. INTJ setting once again another fastest lap. Tires, we have Humid on 7-lap-old medium tires, KQ Microstatic on 7-lap-old hard tires. Humid has the ability to preserve his tires, so does have the advantage at the moment, but KQ is going to be able to push those tires a little bit harder later on. So possibly the better choice, especially if they do end up going all the way to the end of the race. If, however, there is a safety car, Humid will be able to pit and get rid of those medium tires, which he's managed to push quite hard, and that will give him the advantage in that situation. So KQ not necessarily on a bad strategy, and definitely showing it now as he starts harassing Humid once again, heading onto the pit straight. Nice and smooth line through there. Humid trying to break the toe a little bit, not weaving too much, but KQ Microstatic is not having any of it, going to the inside, and this will definitely be a difficult one for him to get through. Had to get on the brakes so early, which led to that moment where Humid managed to carry a lot more speed through that corner. So KQ not pulling out to the outside or to the actual line in order to avoid contact with Humid, but should have maybe even squeezed Humid a little bit towards the outside of the track. That KQ now getting a time penalty for track limits. So KQ still racing an intelligent race, still deciding to take his time, make his presence known, but not push too hard and end up in a situation where he cannot finish the race. Definitely the way to go. INTJ passing Gur at the back, making up 2 positions now from where he ended up after his little series of unfortunate events. Michael right behind Sebi, still putting pressure on him. KQ Microstatic going into the 3rd sector. Let's see what he can do as he heads into the DRS zone. Gets DRS on Humid. So close now. 2-1-0 Humid. Humid is now in 2nd position. KQ Microstatic goes through here. Unfortunately, he will go through. There's the DRS detection zone, so Humid will get DRS on the next run. Moss and Venom in the background, swapping positions, getting alongside each other, but not actually making any impact. Humid looking at the outside, KQ closing it off. So let's see what Moss and Venom are doing. They have now changed positions going into turn 1. Venom turning into Moss, but Moss managing to keep the position. So Moss now up into 3rd place, Venom down to 4th, and having to settle for letting the Red Bull pass. Sebi and Michael have swapped positions as well. Sebi not having the greatest race, not having the race that he needed at the beginning. Looks like Sebi has decided that he does not want to hold position. A 10th behind right, getting DRS, going into turn 13, going to the inside, ghosting out for a moment there. So that is very interesting. Sebi possibly having a couple of connection issues. That may be how he dropped so far back during the pit stops. So Sebi having a connection issue, ghosting, and for a moment, and Michael going through him there, going through turn 13. Thank goodness, because that could have ended one of or both of their races. KQ Microstatic now out in front, 7 tenths up from Humid. So definitely pushing it, 5 tenths now at the end of the second DRS zone, and that is not terrible. Venom now getting up ahead of Moss behind them, but Moss will definitely not just take that. Looks like Moss is already trying to got his DRS open and trying to take the position back. So let's go see what's happening there. Both of them looking to the outside line. Great defense there from Venom, putting himself into the middle of the track and cutting off the pass. Sebi in the meantime does make it stick past Michael, but Michael is known to fight, and you can see he is already right on, or he is staying right with the Haas of Sebi. So as things stand on lap 18 of 25, 7 laps to go, this track being one of the longest on the calendar. If I recall correctly, it is the second longest on the calendar, behind only Spa. IMTJ getting another track limits warning. So KQ Microstatic out in first on those hard tires, possibly making them work for him now as he gets into the second half of his stint. Humid on those mediums, probably starting to feel it as he is now 4 tenths behind KQ Microstatic, looking like he's going to try something onto the start-finish straight. Will get on the ERS now, not too early this time. He has had a problem with that over the last couple of races, triggering that ERS a little bit too early and spinning out. Not doing it this time, looking at the back of the gearbox of the Ferrari, getting to the outside. Ferrari taking a deep line again and ending up in a situation where he has to back out. Venom going into the pits, getting rid of those medium tires early and getting onto the softs. So we have now seen that Venom was struggling with those tires, and that means that the mediums out in front, Moss and Humid, might also start to struggle, especially from this point onwards. Venom falling down to 7th position. Ladmine getting up into 6th, definitely securing his place as the Season 1 champion so far. So Humid out in front, KQ Microstatic right on the back of that McLaren. Ferrari and McLaren fighting once again. Penalties so far, Humid does have the advantage in penalties. He has 2 seconds of penalties fewer than KQ Microstatic, so KQ really does need to get a move on and get ahead of Humid by at least 2 seconds. Looking at a terrible place to pass there, but possibly just trying to break the line, break the dirty air, cool his engine a little bit, and preserve his tires a little bit more. Heading down towards turn 27, the final turn, looks to the outside, is ahead at the beginning of the turn, slow through it. Humid passes him as they cross the DRS detection zone, so let's see who gets DRS here. Neither of them opened DRS. I don't know if that was possibly a gentleman's agreement style moment, but there we have it. So off they go. KQ Microstatic still behind Humid and still with 2 seconds extra of penalties. Sebi 7 seconds back, but he's only got 3 seconds of penalties, so he needs to make up some time to be able to have a chance at the championship if something happens to Landmine. Moss and IMTJ switching positions at the back. That looks like Moss has gone into the pits to get rid of those medium tires. So Humid, the last person on the medium tires other than Alicia. So Humid and Alicia, the last people on those medium tires from the safety car. and will be probably struggling quite badly going forward. So KQ Microstatic, this is his chance to make a move on Humid. Possibly doesn't even need to 5 laps to go. Humid can decide that he might want to try and push it through, but that didn't go so well for him last time. Brazil being the last time he tried to push through and ended up with a puncture, and that was the beginning of his pointless streak. So Humid on those medium tires will definitely be struggling. KQ Microstatic making it look like he's standing still almost with the extra pace from those hard tires, but that will give Humid the DRS. You can see the DRS open there, and Humid is likely to try into turn 1, gets onto the racing line. KQ Microstatic decides to give him the position and get into his slipstream once again. You can see all the rubber laid down there in the skid marks going into turn 1. Michael and Sebi 3rd and 4th. Also quite close together, but not close enough to do anything into that corner. So we have Humid out in front. Oh, Venom now putting in a fastest lap time. Venom on fresh softs, only 1 lap old, so that would be why he is able to do that. Michael 4 tenths behind Sebi, KQ 7 tenths behind Humid. So 1, 2, 3 and 4 quite close together to each other. Sebi 7 seconds behind KQ Microstatic, not close enough to make any sort of impact as far as the penalties are concerned. IMTJ definitely sitting with the biggest number of penalties at 14 seconds worth of penalties. So from that moment of contact after the safety car, IMTJ has had a terrible race, a terrible run of luck, and has not been able to, doesn't seem to have been able to focus on the race as much as he had before. He was running a great defense before he started getting past on those older tires. So tires playing a big part in these battles, as KQ Microstatic is now looking at the back of Humid going onto the pit straight. Humid still staying out on those medium tires, definitely pushing them beyond their lifespan. And you can see how easily KQ Microstatic is passing him, how much earlier on the straight KQ is managing to get past him every single time. So Humid definitely struggling with the exits of those corners as Michael passes Sebi going down towards turn 1. That was very close, but both of them keeping out of each other's way. Venom now another fastest lap with a 1:29.813. 10 seconds behind Sebi, so unlikely to catch before the end of the race, but definitely putting down his mark. Moss now with the fastest lap time of 1:29.769 in the Red Bull. So these guys definitely pushing each other, and Sebi is looking at the inside of the Williams down through 13. That banked corner, as you can see, allows both of them to take so much speed through the corner. Michael looking at a wider line but not able to make a move back on Sebi. So Sebi back up into 3rd position with Michael right behind and not letting up. Humid is now falling a little bit further back from KQ Microstatic. If KQ Microstatic can pull out, it doesn't manage to pull out another couple of tenths, and so Humid will have DRS once again down this back sector. So 5 tenths before turn 27. Let's see how his exit is. His exit looks nice and clean. I don't think he's close enough to make a move, and look at that, he is falling back a little bit even at the beginning of the DRS zone. So KQ Microstatic obviously having saved up some ERS, getting a better exit and keeping Humid behind this time around. Sebi and Michael also not making any moves this time around on the track, so tires possibly starting to play into it. But people starting to find it a little bit more difficult to pass each other. IMTJ and Moss looking like they might actually have a little bit of a battle on their hands. IMTJ gets past Moss. Moss pulls into the slipstream of the Mercedes and accepts the pass. So we had another time penalty there. KQ Microstatic up to 11 seconds of penalties. So KQ not having a great race as far as the track limits are concerned. Also had that 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. So that is IMTJ the latest person to get a track limits penalty. So Humid doesn't need to actually fight on track for this. He will definitely have it. But KQ Microstatic does need to try and get further ahead of Sebi to deny Sebi that second position. Let's see how it is. So we have Sebi 9 seconds back. That's within the 11 seconds, but also has a 3-second penalty. So just outside of the 11-second gap that he would need to be within to make it up to KK Microstatic. Sebi having to find about a second and a half, if I'm not mistaken, to catch up to KQ Microstatic, but not being able to keep Michael behind him is not the way to do it. Michael and Sebi fighting it out through turn 1, 2, and 3, side by side. Sebi keeping the position, but that has dropped him back even further. So Michael making sure that Sebi will not be able to catch KK Microstatic at the moment. That might going into the pits. Now this... he's looking for the fastest lap, which he doesn't actually need. That was a little bit of lag. Ladmine, oh, what's happened to K? Oh no, KQ Microstatic has ended up in the wall, and that is terrible for his race. So KQ, oh, look at that rear wheel spin. That has put KQ Microstatic down into 4th position with that 11-second penalty. That is really unfortunate for him. So we have Venom getting the latest 3-second penalty for track limits. KQ Microstatic unfortunately dropping down to 4th, possibly pushing a little too hard. Unfortunately we weren't on board with them as they had that happen, but Humid now up ahead, Sebi behind. Sebi 3 seconds advantage over Humid as far as penalties are concerned, so it's still a long way to go before there's any chance that he'll be able to catch up. And with 1 lap to go, this looks like it is Humid's race all the way around this final lap of the F1 2021 season of the Korea Racing League. Season 1 of the Korea Racing League. So as long as Humid keeps it out of the wall, he will have this race. Having said that, we've seen the commentator's curse hit twice so far this evening, so we're definitely going to follow him around and see how he goes. And I'm sure he's going to watch that later and be thrilled. So Humid going around turn 13 on this final lap. Takes a nice wide line, sticks to the racing line, which you can see by that lighter patch where the rubber has been laid down. You can see how much lighter it is now than it was earlier in the race. Michael behind Sebi, 5/10 back, and will probably look to have another go as they come into the final sector. So we'll follow Humid around until we see the two of them get into the final sector. KQ Microstatic also with them, so that may be an interesting final battle for third, 4th, and 5th. Moss and IMTJ swapping positions as they head through the 2nd sector. So Humid takes the final corner, but we have some racing action further back. KQ Microstatic right on top of Michael, who is close enough to Sebi to possibly be a danger coming down the pit straight. Let's see how these three go as they get onto the pit straight. Humid has crossed the line in 1st place and finished the final race of the championship in 1st. KQ Microstatic gets the 5-second unserved penalty that we expected. So our top 5 as they stood: Humid in 1st place, Michael in 2nd, Sebi in 3rd, Venom in 4th, and KQ Microstatic in 5th position with all those penalties. IMTJ will be the next person to cross the line, but Moss manages to look like he might have managed to get past him before the end of the race, but those 17 seconds for penalties I think he had, putting IMTJ solidly in 7th. Ladmine crosses the line, gets the fastest lap, just as a final little victory security. So Ladmine finishes in 7th position, gets the fastest lap as well, puts himself ahead of IMTJ as well. IMTJ's penalties really playing a big part in his final position. Gur coming home in 9th. Alicia has finished in 10th, a lap down. Only one person finishing a lap down, and that was Alicia, who did seem to struggle a little bit with this track, but did manage to make it all the way through. And that is the end of the final lap of F1 2021 Season 1 of the Korea Racing League. league. Congrats to Ladmine for getting driver of the day. That could be the other reason he decided to start so far down. And congrats as well to him for winning the championship. Sebi, well done to you for your valiant fight. Not sure what happened in those pit stops, but that definitely affected your ability to challenge. But you have raced great through the second half of the season. And well done to Michael for finishing second here, and Humid for finding his form once again and getting to the top of the standings for this race. Thank you everyone for joining us. It has been a great pleasure to host you all, and we will see you for the next season. Please don't be a stranger. Come and find us in the Aquaria Discord, and we will see you next season.